Speaking or part of the campaign should come on up. Why don't you put that?
We're
You're not speaking, but I want to acknowledge you.
Okay.
Give me the right name of the.
Dave Henry?
No, I know you, but the organization.
New Jersey
Health.
Association of County and City Health Officials.
It's right on the press release, but I don't actually have a copy of the press release.
Okay.
All right, are we ready to roll?
Whenever you're ready, and I apologize for being a little
That's okay. No, you don't have to apologize.
Yeah, I always like to be on time.
No, we really do. It's my pleasure. An honor. Okay. I think we're about ready to roll. Good morning, everyone. Oh, you guys can do better than that. It's only Tuesday. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, that's better. Good morning, everyone. I'm Stacey Berger. I'm the president and CEO of the Housing and Community Development Network of New Jersey. We're the statewide association of nonprofit community development organizations who've been working in New Jersey to make our homes and communities great places that everyone can afford to live and work. This is our second press conference with a number of partners to promote the funding of lead prevention in New Jersey. As many of you know, there's been a $10 million fund set aside since 2004 to fund the rehab and remediation of lead paint in homes in New Jersey. This is a major problem. A number of folks are going to speak about the problem, so I will not continue to talk about it, but I do want to let you know that we have with us behind these folks, we've got a big board up back here, and at the end we're going to ask the elected officials who are here today to commit to put that funding where it belongs in that $10 million lead hazard control fund to sign a show of their support. If they need to leave early, they can go ahead and sign and put that up, but we'll have plenty of time for people to do that if they would like. I want to first start with Lynn Weiss and Deborah Bradley from one of our board members and board organizations, Homefront, which is right here in Mercer County. They provide tremendous social services to homeless families and children in need, and I think that you'll hear best from them. So Lynn and Deborah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. Like I said, I am Lynn, and our clients' children are breathing in these fumes and are affected every single day living in the area of Trenton. This is why we strive to please have something done. I had parents, Lauren and Richard, that were supposed to come with me this morning with their two sons, Noah and Richard Jr. And unfortunately, they had to take Noah back to Children's Hospital this morning, so they were unable to be here to speak to you this morning. But I would like to introduce Rashina and her son, Rasheen, and this is Rasheen and his grandmother, Deborah Bradley, who would like to say a few words, who live with, or one of Homefront's clients.
Hello, everybody. I have been in an apartment out in Trenton for 7 months, and my son was only like 6 or 7 months old, and we haven't been in an apartment that long. When he went to the doctor, he had seizures, everything. He never had problems in his life. And the apartment was let from the back to the top, to the floors, to every room in the apartment. I just want y'all to know that when y'all rent out these apartments, please make sure that y'all get a fully inspection, because an OC letter do not do nothing. And this is what my grandson growth, he have learning disability problems, he talk, he can't grow. You understand? And messing with his teeth, he have seizures, you know, he's not the same. So I just want everybody to know that when you rent these apartments, make sure that y'all have these apartments fully inspected, because the landlord really don't care about us. He just care about the money. He really don't care. Thank you.
Lynn mentioned another family. That's the one where they also. Right, they also had a similar situation, and they're living in the Homefront Family Preservation Center because they can't return to their home because the home has lead in it and it can't be remediated. The Lead Hazard Control Fund will give low-income tenants and landlords the opportunity to fund those remediation programs. We know that costs about $5,000 to remediate, between $5,000 and $10,000 once. Once we solve that problem, that home is lead-free forever. It will not come back. So putting this money into that fund is paying it forward for the next generation, like Deborah's grandson. Unfortunately, he is only one of about 3,500 kids that were found to have lead in New Jersey last year. This is a public health epidemic, and we need to make sure that those funds go where they belong. And we could not be more pleased to be here today with the leaders of the legislature and members as well to show their support for putting this money where it's intended. So I'd like to invite Senate President Steve Sweeney to say a few words. Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy. Thanks for putting this together. In my real world, I was a lead hazard instructor years ago, because as an iron worker, you deal with it, and you realize all the very serious health effects that come with lead. And unfortunately, in this state, we have an administration that doesn't recognize we do have a crisis, and it needs to be addressed. And it's more than the water. It's the paint. And to deny that we have this problem is wrong. I know the speaker's here, and I'm really thrilled to have the speaker here, because we do agree on more than we disagree on, and this is an area where we agree we need to address this. And it takes funding, and we're going to put funding in again in order to ensure that these issues get remediated. You know, I have a daughter born with a disability, and when she was born, I knew she had Down syndrome. These are children that are born healthy, and are being poisoned. And there's no way to accept or allow this to continue. Not in a state as wealthy as New Jersey, to just turn a blind eye or walk away and think that it's so quiet, because they said, well, how many, 3,500, Stacy?
Yeah,
3,500 children that were diagnosed with lead. And as you heard from the young lady, what was going on with her grandson. This has such health effects. And unfortunately, you're taking healthy children and giving them disabilities by not preventing this exposure to lead. And you know, it is 2016. It was years ago we outlawed lead paint, I thought. And we should have remediated all the lead paint in every place that possibly it was. Just like asbestos. It is a serious health issue that needs to be addressed now. So Stacy, I'm committed. That's why I'm here today. And hopefully the administration, it's disappointing that they don't think that we have a crisis. When you can't drink the water or live where you choose to live without poisoning your children, I don't know how that's not a crisis. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you for being here very much. Speaker Prieto is also here with us today. The Assembly has heard and passed bills along with the Senate to fund this that have gone to the governor's desk that he has either pocket vetoed or just outright vetoed. So I want to give the speaker an opportunity to speak.
Well, I want to thank Stacy and all the advocates. This is an important day to be here to make this awareness, because we have funded it, but we need to make sure it gets into the budget. As Senate President said, from his daytime job as my daytime job as a code official, I know it firsthand about the codes and where we should be. And lead abatement is something that we should have been doing for many, many years. And to have this still into the 21st century, it is 2016, is unacceptable. As we hear all the problems throughout the nation, you hear about Flint and, you know, water with the pipes. And coming from the trades, I can tell you that that is a whole nother issue that we're dealing with as we see levels high in Newark. But again, in these homes, it's unacceptable to these healthy children that actually can have a lot of lifelong effects by this exposure. And it only takes a remediation of it that it would take it away completely. This is something we have to fund. We have to put the resources there to be able to get it done. And I'm just happy to be here, to be able to be part of getting this across to everybody, and the administration has to do the right thing to make sure they sign the bill, and that we will make sure that it is in the budget and that it stays in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So we asked the governor to put this in the budget. The network did, along with 108 other organizations. You're not going to have to listen to all 108 this morning, but I did want to acknowledge a few other folks who are here with us today. The New Jersey Association of County and City Health Officials are here, the Sierra Club of New Jersey, the NAACP, and Solutions to End Poverty Soon, And I know we have a few other folks in the room as well. I did want to offer the opportunity for some of our legislative champions who've been working on this bill to say a few words if they wanted. Senator Turner has been leading the fight on the inspection bill in the Senate, where the exact issue that Ms. Bradley spoke about, where making sure that we have the capacity to inspect 1- and 2-family homes, which currently we do not do, even though the law requires it, that she's been instrumental in putting a bill in forward to make sure that that happens. Did you want to say anything, Senator Turner? Thank you. Sure.
Good morning, and thank all of you for being here today. This is not rocket science. We know for a fact, studies as well as research has shown what causes brain damage to many of our young children in this state. And unfortunately, we find that most of the poisoning that's taking place as a result of the lead, these children are located in our impoverished areas of this state, in our cities. And as an elected representative, we have a moral obligation as well as a fiscal obligation to get the lead out. Get the lead out of these homes and get the lead out of our schools, because this is where so many of our young children are developing during their formative years. And if we don't do this now, it's going to cost us a lot more down the road. We're all going to find that we're being penny wise and pound foolish. It costs so little in order to get the lead out of these environments, but it costs us so much more in terms of social costs as well as the costs of trying to remediate through special services these children who have developed these disabilities. So I call on all of us here, and I thank you all for being here. Get the lead out. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. So the Assembly is also hard at work. Assemblywoman Muoio and Assemblywoman Spencer are here, and I didn't know if they wanted to say anything real quickly. No, not at all. It's your show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Grace Spencer, and I represent the 29th Legislative District, which is Newark and Belleville. So it's my town that has been affected by this new onslaught of the high levels of lead that is appearing in our water system. I'm the sponsor of a bill here in the Assembly that would appropriate $10 million to lead abatement. It's important that the governor gets the lead out, all right? Senator Turner said it's time to get the lead out of the homes. It's time for the governor to get the lead out of his system and get going by allocating this money back into the budget, because that's what's important. We're moving forward as a state, and in order to continue that momentum, it's important that our children have the best start possible, and the best start possible is with a healthy home. Healthy homes are key to the success of children as well as to adults as we move forward in this state. If we don't start with the children by getting the lead out, then what are we doing as a state, and what are we saying about the things that we are doing? Since 1978, lead has been illegal in paint. 1978, I was a toddler, and I was commenting with Speaker Prieto. I remember my mother saying, "That's not good for you," and I could hear my sister saying, "It's sweet, it tastes good, it's bright colors." All the key triggers that attract children to putting things in their mouth, sweet and attractive in color. This should not still be the problem today. Little Rasheen should not be eating the same things that my sister ate almost 40 years ago. That's not what it's about. It's time to get the lead out. Let's get moving. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm Liz Muoio. I represent the 15th Legislative District here in the city of Trenton, and you're standing in one of the 11 towns across the state that have higher lead levels, poisoning levels than Flint, Michigan. And some of the earlier speakers have mentioned, and I want to drive this point home, that the #1 cause of lead poisoning is not water, but it's the paint in the homes. And somebody said to me today, we mandate that someone bring a baby home from a hospital in a approved car seat, and yet we send them home to a house that could be poisoning them as soon as they start crawling on that rug or holding themselves up on that wall. So we need to deal with this in a comprehensive way. It's got to be water inspections, paint inspections. We have a bunch of great legislation that's been introduced over the past few months and in previous years that has been vetoed. We are really going to be aggressively pushing these bills, and I would hope the governor finally listens and starts approving them. So thank you.
We have a couple of community developers who've been working on these issues in Newark and Camden. I just wanted to ask them to come say a few words. Bridget Pfeiffer from Parkside Business in Camden Partnership, and Ray Ocasio from La Casa de Don Pedro. You guys come up together.
I'm very happy to be here to speak out on behalf of Parkside Business and Community in Partnership. We are a neighborhood-based, membership-based organization that's been working very diligently to restore and to bring life to the community there in the city of Camden. Parkside members, I'm here to speak on their behalf, as well as Camden residents across the city. We're concerned that there are 11 cities in New Jersey that have tested a higher percentage of children with elevated levels of lead in their blood than what was identified in Flint, Michigan. And while Flint certainly has garnered much deserved attention, we believe that New Jersey's children need help too. This is a statewide health crisis that's gone on for too long, and we believe that it must stop now. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Ray Ocasio, and I'm the Executive Director of La Casa Don Pedro. This question of lead in our cities is not just limited to the city, it's throughout the entire state and throughout our country. Lead paint has been with us for too many years. There's, in the city of Newark, there's an ongoing program to deal with families that are confronting the lead issue, but it's a very limited program by providing medical attention and shelter. On a daily basis, La Casa does inspection of homes, and we run into, during our weatherization work, we often encounter lead. We also can treat lead, but it's very limited because it's part of the health and issue aspect of the program that does only a small portion. If we replace a window, a dozen windows, we're still leaving wood, paint on the woodwork and walls, so that there's an opportunity, I think, to fund this program, fund lead, to target that those funds so that when we enter a home that has infants or expected parents, that we can not only just do the limited version of lead remediation or abatement, but we could do an entire household. That would be an efficient way of using this money so that it's used and affects children who are coming of age and are most likely. This is a long-term proposition. It's a long-term proposition not only to deal with the paint, but also our infrastructure in terms of the pipes that enter our homes and our schools. So let's get started on this. As has been said, let's get the lead out. Let's get it out of our system. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. One thing I just wanted to reiterate that Bridget probably knows about is the fact that the city of Camden was recently reported to have lead in its school water as well, and those kids in those districts have been drinking bottled water for the last few years at the cost of like $75,000, $80,000 a year. So we know that schools have a problem, and we need to make sure they have the resources to deal with that. I wanted to just ask Elise Pivnik from Isles, who did the original research on the 11 cities and 2 counties that have higher elevated lead levels, to talk briefly, and Ann Vardaman from Citizen Action to wrap it up, talk about the campaign.
Hi there. I'm from Isles. We're a community development organization based in Trenton. We've been working on lead poisoning and its prevention for over 15 years. And the most important thing for the message I hope everybody takes away from that the beacon that should be guiding state policy is prevention. We should be looking for ways to test homes, test water, test our playgrounds, to find out if there's elevated lead levels there, dangerous lead levels, remove the lead, and let children go on with their lives. So we have been, it's important, one of the things that we're working on now is a lead safe certificate program so that no landlord should be able to rent a house to a family that spoke to us today with high levels of lead. And that even goes for Section 8 housing. In this, right now, throughout the nation, you can be a landlord that receives a Section 8 subsidy and never be asked to have your home assessed for lead hazards before you rent. We can do better than this. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Ann Vardaman. I'm the program director at New Jersey Citizen Action. This is my daughter, Miriam. And we joined with the Housing Network to start the Lead Kids Free NJ campaign. We've collected hundreds and hundreds of children's handprints, asking that lead funding for the Lead Hazard Control Assistance Fund be included in the budget. We've collected thousands of petition signatures. We sent a letter to the governor signed by 109 organizations, and sorry, that's right there, asking that this money be included in the budget. Last month, what Governor Christie said was that if this was important to the people of New Jersey, that he would include funding in the budget. He didn't. And then what he said this month was that this has been over-dramatized. I don't think you can over-dramatize over 3,000 children being poisoned last year in their homes and in their schools. And so I'm incredibly grateful to legislative leadership and all of the partners here and the elected officials who are taking this seriously, that this is a crisis, that we are going to fix the problem. And the governor, I sincerely hope he's listening to us. Thanks.
Thank you, and thanks, Mary. So that concludes the formal portion of our press conference this morning. We cannot reiterate enough that children should not be lead detectors. We need a preventative policy and preventative programs and the funding that our families need and deserve and our communities deserve to make sure that we finally do, as Senator Turner said, get the lead out. We know we can do this. New Jersey is better than allowing 3,500 kids to be poisoned last year or any time in the future. So I'd like to ask the Senate President, the Speaker, and our Assembly members to sign their names on one of those hands, and we'll put them up on the board, and then we can take questions about lead poisoning prevention if you have them. Are there any questions for me? Nope, get out of the way. I was trying to say. Get out of the way. I can't say that all the time. They told me to get out. We do, there were two other legislators who couldn't be with us this morning, both because they're on the Budget Committee, where we fully expect and hope that they'll be supportive of this issue. So from Senator Teresa Ruiz, she asked that we just let folks know that she would like to have been with us and would like me to read the following statement. Lead poisoning is completely preventable. For that reason, it's critical that we take action to prevent exposure through remediation and other measures that will protect against the dangerous health effects that are caused by this harmful substance. Senator Ruiz says she wants to thank legislative leadership for their dedication to funding prevention efforts. As a co-sponsor of this legislation, she wants to thank her colleague, Senator Rice, for championing the bill to provide $10 million in funding for this purpose. We will continue to work alongside advocates, parents, and families to better ensure that kids in New Jersey are lead-free. Nothing is more important than the safety of our children, and no price tag can be placed on their health and well-being. Senator Rice, who's also at the budget hearing today, says he regrets that he's unable to attend today's event due to the budget hearings, but wants to express his appreciation to the Senate President and the Assembly Speaker for supporting this legislation that he sponsored to provide $10 million to the Lead Hazard Control Assistance Fund. He also wants to thank advocacy groups for their work in helping to keep the issue of lead exposure and its impact on New Jersey children at the forefront. Lead exposure is a serious problem affecting thousands of children and families in New Jersey. This is a public health crisis that cannot be ignored, nor is it one that we will allow to go unaddressed by government. The legislature has demonstrated its commitment to providing money to the lead fund for remediation, relocation, and other measures. There is more to do to eliminate lead exposure to our children, as the recent lead problems in Newark has demonstrated, but this funding is a major step forward in our effort. From Senator Rice, and we'll have printed copies for members of the press for you. Are there questions?
Do you have an idea of how far the $10 million will go? Will that effectively solve the problem? Is it
No.
just a fraction?
It is a absolute step in the right direction. It is an immediate first step we can take, but we know that there's much, much more money to be funded. In fact, we know that we are owed about $60 million from the fund for the last 6 to 7 years. That's the money that's been taken every year. So it's a perpetual fund. Every year it should generate $10 million. And in fact, it is generating $10 million. Every time somebody buys a gallon of paint in New Jersey, 50 cents goes into that fund. So we expected that it would take 10 to 15 or 20 years even to solve the problem. The bill was passed in 2004, so the money should have been there for the last decade.
Does it mean that lead inspections of this scale are not taking place then?
Lead inspections and remediation are different, right? So the inspections on multifamily is happening. They're not inspections for 1 and 2 family homes currently. And the money to remediate it, you can find lead, but if you're a lower income landlord, let's say you rent the top, you live in the bottom and you rent the top, you might not be able to rent that, and so that you don't have the money to do the repairs because the funding to do the repairs is not being made available. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
So there are a bunch of, in addition to the money, there are a bunch of different bills that are moving along. One of the ones that seems interesting that I was hoping you could address is the one about lowering the level at which action would be required.
I'm going to ask Elise to talk about that. It's the CDC level?
Right, so New Jersey is one of the few states that receives CDC funding that still uses an actionable level. That's a level where the CDC recommends public health intervention. They've kept it at 10, where most states are using 5, which is a CDC recommendation.
So what would be, I guess, the real world impact?
The real world impact, if you look at the data, you'll see that basically it's about 2 to 3 times more children fall between 5 and 9 than above 10 or above. You've got a much bigger caseload.
So if it was 5, then local health departments, I mean, we don't
Right.
have enough money to act at 10, I suppose. How would we
Right,
respond?
it's a big problem, and my colleague here, Mr. Henry, I know, has been very concerned that we're going to need more resources in the public health departments to help with the caseload.
Yes. Because it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good morning. Dave Henry, New Jersey Association of County and City Health Officials. From our documents that we've seen so far, doing the environmental part of the lead investigation can actually cost anywhere from $700 to $900 a person. So, I mean, clearly, you know, we're joined with all our colleagues and folks around here to try and get more kids safe in regards to that. But what happens is it will double our caseload, actually, and we're hoping there would be sufficient funding as part of the $10 million budget to help along for lead meters and for additional personnel to be out in the community.
I just want to add one more thing, just to, there is no, the CDC tells us, all research tells us, there's no safe level of lead. So the 5 micrograms per deciliter of blood is a number that was chosen by the CDC. It captures the top 2.5% of lead levels in the country, but there's no safe level.
And we take the governor at his word when he said the other day that he'll do everything in his power to make sure that this problem is solved. So this problem can be solved. We can absolutely do this. Mike McNeil from Solutions to End Poverty soon and NAACP. And these are a wiped lead test kit. They're pretty inexpensive. It's the remediation and the dealing and the aftermath and the abatement that requires additional, funding. Thanks, Mike.
Is that a kit that people can use by themselves, or do they
I-
need a?
Yes, yes.
You can do that yourself, but you need to then if you find lead, you need to then get relocated somewhere, which is part of the problem that a lot of our
Right.
families are facing.
These
There's
are
no
the training
funding.
videos.
Right, and we
Also,
can,
the training videos, which are in English and Spanish. These kits are the kits that we've given out, so folk can do some self-testing to find out whether they have lead in their housing.
but they should not do abatement, and that's where
Right.
the problem
That's correct.
comes, because it has to be done very, very carefully. If you inaccurately do, maybe do you want to then?
Well, you need to do it with someone that's certified to do lead abatement. You talk about is 10 million enough? Well, it's been 10 million for years diverted.
Right.
We might be well along our way to resolving this issue if the funds didn't get diverted. So, as someone that, like I said, I was trained in lead hazard, and we've just been delayed all these years. Senator Rice in my house has fought for this line item every single year. And, the governor takes it out every year. And the water issue, the water issue's got everybody, scared. They can't drink safe water. But the bigger issue is the lead paint in the homes. And when you think about it, you can really, we banned lead paint in 1978. So newer home stock doesn't have lead paint. So you can actually narrow in and really focus on the places you need to focus to deal with the issue. So unfortunately, we're dealing with an issue, and again, children are becoming disabled. It's one thing when a child is born with a disability. Like I said, I dealt with that in my own life, but to have a healthy baby become disabled because you're providing a roof over their head is just wrong.
Senator, you've been adamant on saying you're going to put this back in the budget,
Yeah.
both you and the Speaker. What are you going to do to convince the governor not to redline it this time?
Well, there's a lot more attention to it now, and you have the public engaged now. The crisis, and Phil, this has been a crisis, and no one's paid attention to it. The governor has not paid attention to it. I think now it's hard to turn a deaf eye to, a deaf ear to it. There's just too many people that are aware of it and are concerned about it. We love our children. We don't want to cripple and disable our children because of where they live or the water they drink. So,
Yeah, no, and just to reiterate on that, and I think it's so important because, as it's said, it's the disparity of where it is. It's probably in more urban areas, it's older housing stock that's normally the poorer, and that's why we're talking about anti-poverty in this session, that this is so important, because we want to give housing, but it's housing that is safe. Because when we talk about it, even in the plumbing industry, we used to use 40-60 solder, that it had a larger content of lead. So then that went to 95.5, and then it went to lead-free. So we have actually been doing the right thing. You can't use lead pipes anymore. It's got to be copper pipes. But paint is always the thing that I think about, because when I was talking to Assemblywoman Spencer, I remember as a kid here being told, don't pull the chips off on the building because kids would eat it, because that's how you got lead poisoning. Also, in these older buildings, when somebody rehabs them, if they sand all this, that becomes all airborne, and that becomes problematic. So that's why you have to have somebody that is certified. And habitability inspections for these places, so you can have, and that's why the health officers is so important. I actually met with them the other day. I've even funding for them for educational and for different things that they need. They're the first line of defense, so we need to make sure it's a safe environment. So I think the governor probably will get it by now. I think given this, that it's gotten national attention, and it's unfortunately that it has to get to that point, to somebody to understand that it is a crisis on many levels. We can't keep having our children, go into an environment that's going to make them sick for their lifetime.
And can I just answer part of that second question, which is how are we going to deal with getting the governor on board? We have 121 hands cut out. We're going to ask every legislator in both chambers to make a commitment to put this in the budget. The Lead Hazard Control Fund bill that will be sent to his desk at the end of next session, at the end of the next time the legislature meets. We have 121 because there's 40, 80, and 1 that it takes to get a bill signed.
Right.
So we're going to ask everybody in the legislature to commit to this, and we hope that because there will be support from both parties, that the governor will make a commitment himself. We also know that when the Lead Hazard Control Fund passed both houses, it had unanimous support in the Assembly and strong bipartisan support in the Senate. So we expect there to be strong support from both parties.
Similar question to that. The governor said that he won't accept any supplemental budget requests. Do you anticipate any sort of cuts in other areas to make up for that?
Well, again, I think we have a very healthy surplus. One that's almost 3 times the size of what it was. And this is something that can't be ignored.
Yeah.
And again, when you go by a bridge and you see it wrapped, when you see a big bridge when they're abating the paint and it's all wrapped and contained, and you see guys coming out with space suits, like space suits, it's because it's that bad, and our children are eating it in their homes. So, look, the water got everyone's attention. The paint has always been an issue, and it's something that we're committed to not making a supplemental, putting it in the budget.
Yeah, but budgeting is about priorities, and when you're talking $10 million in a $34.8 billion budget, it's a very small item that you're talking about. So there has to be room for it, and there's no need to say you have to identify with this and that. It's $10 million, almost out of $35 billion. So we have to take that into context.
The DEP says that there's no law requiring school districts to test for drinking water. Does that sound accurate to you? And should that change?
Well, we're going to do legislation to require it. And first off, you shouldn't need that to legislate common sense, Andrew. You know what I mean? Like seriously, there's problems with drinking water in the state of New Jersey.
Well, do you think school districts should be doing this by themselves?
Well, listen, if we have to legislate it, we'll legislate. A lot of times legislation is a reaction to a situation that's happened. So, like, we've asked the commissioner, I know Senator Ruiz and I asked the commissioner to require all school districts to perform lead testing. Kids, again, it's lead. We're disabling our children, so.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
But it's common sense.
Yeah.
Your child is in school longer than they are at home Monday through Friday. And to let your child go to a place where you consider to be a safe haven, and you assume that it's a safe haven, only to have your child come back in a condition worse than you sent them. And when you look at Rashid, we talk about the disparity and how things are happening. He's from Trenton. He's from down here. He's 2 years old. Little Miriam is 2 as well.
The EPA protocols also say that schools should be tested, just so you understand. There's a federal lead abatement issue when it comes to drinking water, and there should be tests based on that. And I'll give you the citation if you like.
But
So
you know,
the
people
state
make
should be following that.
people make assumptions because it's government, it's safe. You know what I mean? People make assumptions and they shouldn't. But, you know, this issue has been brought to light, to a national spotlight because of what happened in Flint. And it actually gives us all an opportunity to draw more attention and get the funding that's been denied for the last several years here.
So you asked the commissioner to
Yeah.
require that, and
We sent him a letter.
what did he say?
I'd have to check, Andrew.
Okay.
But we've asked him to test all the drinking water in all the schools. Because people just make an assumption, it's not that expensive.
And otherwise, you plan to legislate it if he doesn't do that?
We have to. You know, again, I think the speaker and I are in agreement that you shouldn't have to legislate common sense, but a lot of times you have to. And this is one of these things where parents are sending their children to a government facility to educate their child, and they have the real potential to be drinking water that's actually causing neurological problems and harming their education. So again, we shouldn't have to legislate everything, but if we have to, we will. This is New Jersey, though. You know what I mean? This is New Jersey, which is supposed to be a progressive state. That's supposed to, it's a wealthy state, and unfortunately, and the speaker brought this up, our poverty rate has gone up from 8% to 11%, and he's made poverty a focus, and I think it was a worthy cause. So you want.
No, and I was gonna say, in New Jersey, necessity is the mother of legislation sometimes. So hopefully it doesn't get to that, but if we need be, we will do that.
But we know from experience that paint is the bigger threat. So while the water issue gets a lot of attention, I think the Senate President said it, and nobody wants lead in their water, and we should absolutely do everything we need to get the water to be clean. We want to make sure that the focus stays on making sure the funds go into the Lead Hazard Control Fund to remediate paint so that we don't have any more situations.
Yes.
I think we have time for one more, and then.
Why is there no
can we-
law in New Jersey? Other states, I know New York, for instance, has a law that before you rent a place, the landlord has to assure that the place.
Senator Turner's law.
That's what we're talking about doing.
Senator
Why
Turner
is-
has that law.
Yeah,
So New Jersey will have the law. We just got to get the governor to sign it.
right. There was one other question.
I'm not convinced he's going to do anything.
But we're gonna
Why do
work.
you think we're standing here?
Right. But and I just want to be clear that this funding is not, to the question about the budget, this funding is not funding that has to be replaced. This is funding that's being collected for this purpose. All we're asking is the governor to follow the law. You had one question, we'll let you do the last. Sure.
I understand the focus today is on the paint, but going back to the water thing, there have been some people asking for funding to replace aging infrastructure. Is that something you're ready to commit to as a priority, as your next priority?
Something that has to be addressed. You have water systems in Newark that are over 100 years old. So, our urban areas are really troubled. And even just guess what? The suburban areas aren't keeping up either.
And the older housing stock, no matter where it is, the services coming into the homes, if they're older, they're lead, and they are lead. And they only get replaced as they leak, because from the curve box to the meter is the responsibility of the homeowner, and that is at a high cost. So we're looking at to see potentially a funding source, and I've been talking with different members of looking to see if there may be some type of, potentially could be even a surcharge on water or something that could be reinvested back into that infrastructure. But we do have to look at that because New Jersey does have very older housing stock, and it is a problem.
Okay.
Thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you.
Some of us will hang out here if you have additional questions. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, thank you.
By the way,